Behind the Shades.
My name is Andrew, and I have a podcast called Anonymous Andrew Podcast. And this podcast was spawned, I created it little less than a year ago because of a relationship I was in. And that's how Terrain and I met. He had heard my story about this relationship with a woman that was living a double life. So we don't have to rehash that. It's actually a couple of episodes ago on your podcast, my story. But however, so that was recorded, I think 6 to 8 months ago, something like that. And at the time of that recording, I was a very bitter and angry man, broken. This woman had, I have to bring a little bit of the story into this update. She was cheating on me and she was seeing other men, and there was some indication that she was doing adult entertainment stuff. And unbeknownst to me, although I had some intuition. I had some feelings that there was something going on. And every time I confronted her, I was gaslit. I was double talked. I was told that I was crazy. So, you can listen to my story on Terrain's podcast, or listen to it on my whole first season is all about the relationship. And at that time, I literally felt, yeah, this woman was beautiful. I was madly in love with her. I really thought that we were going somewhere. I was living in a fantasy world. There's an expression that you fall in love with the potential version of somebody, and that's exactly what I did. There was a version of her that I made up in my mind that I thought she could become, and that we could become, and that we could ride off into the sunset. And she had a whole complete different narrative in her head, and somehow she hung in the relationship for 2.5 years, and so did I. And all the while I was privy to what's going on. I knew she was up to something. So when the whole thing ended, I was angry at myself. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed because I had brought my friends and my support group into the scenario and telling them, and everybody was telling me, I don't understand why you're staying, and why don't you leave? Well, you don't understand. She's beautiful. I'll never find anybody as beautiful as her. For the audience, I'm 63 years old, and when you get up there, and I'm by no means saying 63 is old, but it's the golden years. I'm a rookie in the golden years. I really didn't think that I would find love again. It just didn't. My heart was broken. She literally, I felt like she ripped the heart out of me and stomped on it. Anyway, so I started this podcast to research gaslighting and narcissism and deception and all that. And I have to tell you, and thank you, Terrain, because Terrain had heard my story and invited me on, and we talked about it. But over the past 6 months, maybe 7 or so, I have been doing a lot of work on myself. Well, the story I just told you was all about her, what she did to me, poor me, cheating and yada yada. What role did I play in that? Because it takes two. In a relationship, there's two people. And while the other person might be responsible for their actions and what they do, was it something that I was doing that pushed her to do that? Anyway, so I reflected, and another thing was that my whole life, when one relationship ended, I jumped into another one without taking 5 minutes to take a step back and look at my life. And again, another thing that, which I'm very open about, I'm an alcoholic in recovery. So a lot of my life there was a lot of drugs and alcohol involved. And so I never had a very meaningful, sustainable relationship with anybody, including my marriage. I was married many, many years ago, 30 something years ago. This time, during when I started the podcast, I not only needed to grieve and process what happened, but I needed to stay single, and I needed to take a deep dive into what role did I play and how did it happen and how can I prevent it from happening again. And of course, my podcast is my journey of all the healing process and the grief and then all that stuff. And now I'm in my second season, and I'm ready. And I never thought I did an episode a couple of days ago where I told my audience that I am now ready. I am happy. I am content. I am joyful being single, sitting in my own skin. Terrain, for years and years and years, I could not be alone. I had to have a woman at my side. It was, and I don't know, some psychologists could tell us what that's all about. But there were times that I couldn't look in the mirror. I didn't like what I saw. Today, I am in a completely different place. I am so happy when I wake up in the morning. I put my 2 feet on the ground. I thank God for another day. And I have been looking for, I'm starting the process now of getting ready to go start dating again. As many of you may know the term cupping season. We're in cupping season. Cupping season is the right before the holidays, like right Thanksgiving, December, Christmas, and then January. The cupping season is when many single people go out and look for their partner, because what's right around the corner from Christmas and New Year's Eve, Valentine's Day is right around that corner. So I didn't come up with that term. It's been a term for a while. I even had to look it up to understand what it meant. So I'm one of those people that are I'll probably go through the holiday single, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. What I really found out in this past year of being single was that it's okay to be single. I don't need somebody next to me. I would like to have somebody. And then I discovered that there's this term between want and need. Do I need a woman or do I want a woman? Do I want a partner or do I need a partner? And I had to make a decision as to which one of those, because it's very important as to between need and want. And today I don't need a partner. I am very capable of, with all those relationships, especially the last one, my whole day and week was catered around her. What time we would talk in the morning, what time we would talk at night, the food that I bought at the grocery store because she was coming over for the weekend. I would, it was all centered around her, and that's not healthy. And I finally, it took time. When they say time heals all wounds, it absolutely does. Because when I spoke to you 6 months ago, I even listened to the recording, I could hear it in my voice. I was bitter. I was angry. I was resentful. I was, thank God I wasn't revengeful, because I'm not that type of person. But today, today's Sunday. It's a little bit of a chilly day, but I was up at 6 o'clock this morning. I played tennis at 8 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, I came back, took a shower, and I met up with my I have three children, 3 adult boys, and I picked up my youngest one, and we hung out this afternoon. And learning by the way, another thing that I found out, that having a woman or partner in your life that you're so obsessed with, so ingrained with, so OC, whatever, you tend to block out the other people in your life, your friends, your support system, your family. I have 3 grown boys, of which the oldest is married and has 2 of my grandchildren, and I dismissed all of them while I was with this woman because my life revolved around this woman. Today, I can pick up the phone and call any one of my sons, although one lives in Florida, but I can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Can I come out and see the grandkids?" Or like the son today, can we get together and just grab a hamburger or a Shake Shack or something, whatever. And it's a beautiful thing. And I thank you for letting me come back on the show, because I want to have the message to your audience and to people that if a relationship ends, it's not the end of the world. And I thought it was.
And Andrew, if I can add to that as well, I think many of us have been there where we're in a relationship, and because we spent so much time with that person, we forget who we are. And because we spent so much time with that person, we seem to neglect what we used to do, our hobbies, our friends, our family, all these things that look small when we're in the relationship, but when we're outside of it are so grand, such as children, as you mentioned, tennis, as you mentioned. I remember a time where I was in a relationship and I was so gun ho. I was so into it. I was like, this is the person that I want to give my 110% in. But then what I found is that I was giving so much of myself that I didn't have anything left over to give back to myself. So my question for you is, as you look back and you compare the 2 Andrews, one from when we first spoke and the one from who I'm speaking to now, what is one of the big differences that you see?
Well, almost everything you just mentioned and more is the first thing that comes to my mind is I have that freedom of when I get up in the morning, the first thing that I don't think of is somebody else. Like, so what time do I call her? I usually call her on the way to work. We're going to talk tonight, or this weekend I have to buy the tickets for the concert we're going to. The single lifestyle, you really gives you that freedom to come and go as you please. You don't have to answer to anybody. In a relationship, a healthy relationship, you could still be involved with that person and make plans and plan your day, your week, your vacation, whatever, with them and around them, but you're still an individual single person. And if you give each other that space, well, I never did that. I would crowd the woman. I would be like, I need you, I need you, I need you. So the biggest difference that I see in myself today is that I am, just for example, today I woke up and I did what I wanted to do, and this whole weekend, for example, I got a lot done. And going back to what you said about we neglect some of the things in our life, I have hobbies that I forgot about. Terrain, I make candles. All right. It's a hobby that my dad taught me. And back then we made like regular candles for like Easter dinner or whatever, like the taper candles. But many, many years ago, I got involved with making these molded candles. And it's something that I enjoy doing. It's a creative craft. I forgot doing that. So today after my son went home, I spent the last 2 hours making candles again, which is something that I enjoy. I put on a podcast or I put on some music, and I'm creating, I'm crafting. So I hope that answers your question. You find yourself again. You find who you are, and it's not dependent on somebody else's day or their answer or what they want to do.